a classroom size decision.
2 weeks?
That's what he said, wasn't it?
I missed it.
This proposal has not been put to the union.
So
it's certainly not been put to my union. We haven't been in negotiations since December the 16th.
Smaller average class sizes, an option to opt out of e-learning. The government announces it is backpedaling on some of its original policies, trying to strike a deal with teachers across the province. Let's go live to our Queen's Park reporter, Mike Crawley. Mike, what is the government saying about why it's making this move now?
Well, Dwight, the Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, says the government is listening to parents. And this certainly does seem to be the most dramatic shift in the province's bargaining stance since the teacher strikes began. Now, this comes after the government was forced to reveal the results of its consultations on education reforms. And those showed overwhelmingly that parents are against the idea of increased class sizes and mandatory e-learning in high school. This afternoon, Stephen Lecce called a snap news conference here at Queen's Park. Here are the key details of what he's now promising. So high school average class sizes would be 23, and that's effectively the same as this year. Now, the government's original proposal was 28. That was last spring. Now, as for those online courses, Stephen Lecce is still saying that they would be mandatory for graduation, but parents will have the ability to opt out for their students from that requirement, which would seem to indicate they would no longer actually be mandatory. Now, here's how Stephen Lecce is explaining the thinking behind these changes.
The government has listened. We have made decisions that are in the interests of students to get a deal, because for 300 days we've been bargaining. We're standing strong on what matters to parents: a fair enhancement for benefit and wages, merit-based hiring. But we're also, when it comes to classroom sizes, creating an outcome that I think is absolutely a win-win for all parties, keeping them low.
Now, a note about those numbers on class sizes. Stephen Lecce is talking about average high school class sizes across each board. There's no commitment from the government about keeping any caps on high school class sizes. Now, in return, the Ford government is asking the teachers' unions to accept a 1% annual cap on their salaries, 1% for benefits, also to accept some changes on the role that seniority plays in hiring. He also wants them to come back to bargaining and is asking those teacher unions that have strikes planned for Thursday to call them off. Dwight?
And Mike, reactions from those teachers unions was swift.
Well, they say this is the first they've heard from the government about these key items being taken off the table. They also want to see the full proposals in writing, not just said at a news conference, because for them the devil is in the details. Now, as for the province-wide strike that the Catholic teachers have planned for Thursday, here is their president, Liz Stewart.
We will come to the table. We are not in a position at this point to cancel job action until we hear what has to be said, until we see what's been talked about in writing, and until we find if there truly is a path forward that will help all of us, including the students of this province.
Now, the Public High School Teachers Union, the OSSTF, also has a strike planned for the TDSB and 8 other school districts around the province. Its president, Harvey Bischoff, we spoke to him just about an hour ago here at Queen's Park and said that strike is still on, at least for now. Dwight?
Yeah, this all breaking coming late this afternoon. Thank you for this, Mike. Now, you can find more on this latest turn in negotiations online at cbc.ca/Toronto. There are now 20 cases of COVID-19 in Ontario. Health officials here say there's still a low risk of getting sick, but for residents of a pair of East End condo towers, concerns about the disease are hitting a lot closer to home tonight. Lisa Shing explains.
Management at this Scarborough condo is going to be scrubbing down common areas of the property with disinfectant. That's after a security guard there tested positive for COVID-19. This notice posted to residents says a security staff member came back from an overseas trip last Sunday, and he was working at the condo last week before the diagnosis. Some residents have been taking extra precautions.
If he works here, we can see him. Everybody know him.
This as Ontario confirmed 2 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number to 20.
Both traveling from, one from Iran, one from Egypt, but those people have been identified. They're at home in self-isolation.
Ontario's health minister says the risk to Ontarians is still low. This afternoon, officials in British Columbia announced a new case there.
It is a man in his 50s who's returned home from traveling, from visiting in Iran.
Yesterday, Canadian authorities started asking people returning from that country to quarantine themselves for 14 days.
At the moment, there is no vaccine and no specific treatment for COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization reported more than 90,000 cases globally, with more than 3,000 deaths. Most of them are in China, but the cases outside the country appear to be spreading faster than within. The WHO points to health measures China has taken.
Looking for cases, looking for contacts, social distancing, hand washing, respiratory etiquette, readying your systems, having an aggressive approach to this. We believe that a reduction in cases in other countries, including Korea, including Italy, including Iran, everywhere, that this is possible.
Manufacturers are also being urged to increase production of supplies like gloves, gowns, and masks by 40%.
Shortages are leaving doctors, nurses, and other frontline health workers dangerously ill-equipped to care for COVID-19 patients.
The WHO also compared COVID-19 with the flu, which kills thousands of Canadians a year. Officials say COVID-19 is more severe, killing about 3% of people who get infected. That's higher than less than 1% of people who get the flu, although COVID-19 spreads less efficiently than the flu. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, we showed you last night how GO Transit is trying to keep the virus from spreading on its trains and buses. Well, tonight the TTC says it has enhanced cleaning protocols in place as well. Kelda Ewan joins us live from Union Station now. And Kelda, we got a first-hand look today at exactly what is being done.
That's right, Joy. I got a glimpse of that today. Now, TTC has definitely enhanced their cleaning protocols. They are now using an industrial-grade disinfectant on all buses. Now, they have definitely increased protocols, especially on buses in the meantime, and they will be doing that on subway trains and streetcars in the future. And this is done every night. They're using this disinfectant to wipe down the buses, inside of buses, every night. But as I found out today, it's the way they are doing it that they say will make all the difference. Inside this TTC bus, workers demonstrate how they've been keeping all surfaces as free of germs as possible.
Once the bus is completely cleaned, then what we do is we use an electrostatic sprayer mister that mists a disinfectant, hospital-grade disinfectant.
TTC started using the sprayer on all buses in late January.
It's different because the electrostatic charge, what it does is it allows the chemical to wrap itself around all the objects.
As for subway trains and streetcars, they are using the same disinfectant, but with wipes for now.
So what we're doing now is with these wipe downs, we've gone from, every few weeks or every month to daily.
GO Transit, meanwhile, is taking it one step further.
So one of the things that we did was piloted this new long-acting antimicrobial agent.
It's called Aegis, and what the coating does is it prevents bacteria and some viruses from sticking to surfaces and transferring to people.
We know it lasts months, which is good, so we'll continue to test it to see how long it lasts.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Suman Chakrabarty says while it's promising, whether it will help in stopping the spread of COVID-19 is still up in the air.
When it comes to coronavirus, we don't exactly know how it acts yet. We do know that the primary way that it's sent to people, transmitted to others, is through droplets. So when you cough and when you sneeze. How it works in terms of touching other surfaces, it's not entirely clear, and that's why most of the efforts have been trying to prevent droplet transmission.
It's always important, we learned that through SARS, that to be a step ahead of any virus circulating.
Metrolink says it will be applying Aegis, this new cleaning agent, to all its trains within the next couple of weeks. TTC says it has also ordered Aegis and will be using it in the future. As for Dr. Chakrabarty, he says beyond all these measures, which are promising, he says he's reminding people that the most important thing to do, wash your hands frequently, because that will reduce your risk of getting the virus in half. Send it back to you, Dwight.
And do it for about 20 seconds. Thank you, Kelda. The growing impact of COVID-19 on the economy prompting the U.S. Federal Reserve to make an emergency interest rate cut today.
Virus and the measures that are being taken to contain it will surely weigh on economic activity, both here and abroad, for some time. We are beginning to see the effects on the tourism and travel industries, and we are hearing concerns from industries that rely on global supply chains.
The Fed cut interest rates by half a point, the steepest cut since 2008. It comes amid growing concern the COVID-19 outbreak would lead to a recession in the U.S. The Bank of Canada announces its rate tomorrow and is also expected to make a rate cut that in turn would bring down the rate for borrowing money for things such as a mortgage or a car loan. We are digging into the surrogacy industry again tonight as part of our series, Baby Business. While most of these births go off without a hitch, our CBC News investigation has found there are no medical standards for surrogacy pregnancies in Canada, and that's leaving women and babies at greater risk. Chris Glover joins us live now with more on this. And you spoke to a woman who is, I guess, trying to warn others.
Yeah, you're about to meet a woman who says she got caught up in all the positive aspects of being a surrogate. And in the end, she's now dealing with life-altering complications that a Toronto high-risk obstetrician says could have been avoided if the medical system had rules in place for surrogates. Already a mother of two, in 2016, Elizabeth Roberts saw her friend act as a surrogate and decided to do it too. She'll never forget the first time she gave birth to another couple's baby.
Seeing the parents hold their daughter, and the dad looked up at me and he just had tears streaming down his face and he just said, "Thank you." Come on.
But now in such pain, she can't do much more than walk the dogs. After the first birth, she did a second surrogacy within 6 months. That one ended in medical complications.
We do get wrapped up in the feel-goods. It's an incredible feedback experience, so why wouldn't you want to experience that again? You just might not be ready.
Well, leaves them vulnerable.
This high-risk obstetrician says Canada needs mandatory wait times for repeat surrogacies. He says these women tend to be older, have had multiple pregnancies, and are being implanted with other people's embryos.
So they're receiving genetic material that they've never faced before, which brings them to the higher risks.
During our investigation, we spoke to one surrogate who had a C-section birth and was implanted with another couple's embryo less than 4 months later. She says no one advised her to wait longer. And while ultimately she was fine, Dr. Kingdom says someone should have advised her to wait a year.
Pre-pregnancy counseling might have resulted in a decision not to be a surrogate or to delay it for further investigations. That's what informed choice is, and really every woman in this country deserves really good informed choice.
Health Canada told us it doesn't have the authority to force the changes Kingdom wants. The practice of medicine is regulated by the provinces and territories.
Good job.
Meanwhile, Robert's complications now require a hysterectomy. She says the system is leaving surrogates at risk.
They're not breed mares, we're people.
So where is the pressure coming from to have another baby then?
For Elizabeth Roberts, she says that the pressure came from herself. You heard in the piece there how amazing the first experience was. So she went looking and signed herself up for a second pregnancy. But in some cases, women have told us these private surrogacy agencies have asked them to be a surrogate again within just a couple days of having given birth. And keep in mind, every time these companies secure a surrogate for another couple, they will get thousands of dollars in consultancy fees. So something that was never supposed to be a commercial industry,
money, yeah.
Many say it has turned into exactly just that.
Thank you for this, Chris.
Thanks, Dwight.
Unbelievable is correct. Look at this video posted to Twitter today showing the driver of an Audi SUV driving on the sidewalk, nearly hitting pedestrians just to get around a traffic backup caused by a garbage truck. The man who posted the video says it happened on Argyle, just west of Ossington. He added he tried to step in front of the SUV to stop it from passing, but was too scared to continue blocking the path. Toronto police say they were not aware of this incident. There's a new push to help the struggling businesses near the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. A campaign is calling on residents to shop and dine in an area that's been flooded with construction and road closures. As Nick Boisvert reports, local business owners appreciate the gesture, but they say financial help would go a lot further.
He's been seeing the same barber for more than 25 years, but for the last few, that routine has been a hassle for J.R. Thomas.
This is where, everyone comes to sit down and to get their groom done, right? And, it's truly inconvenient.
His preferred shop at the corner of Eglinton and Oakwood has been pinned against fencing and construction staging for years now.
There's absolutely no walk-in traffic. There's nobody coming here. There's there's nothing really going on. When you look out, it's like a ghost town.
In a few years, that could change with his shop right next door to an LRT station. The owner isn't sure he'll make it that long.
We don't know if we're gonna be here. We don't see really the way they've gentrified the area. They're really forcing us out.
Construction on the 19-kilometer light rail line was supposed to be finished in September 2021, but last month, Metrolink said it won't be ready until well into 2022. That would mark the Jerusalem restaurant's 51st anniversary.
You're really living amongst chaos at times of the day, and you're like, really another year of this? It really is just disheartening.
City councilors for the area say damage to local businesses has already been done.
140 approximately businesses, you say, have closed up already. How many more do you think could happen to?
Well, if it's another 3 years, I don't know how we're not going to lose dozens and dozens more.
To stop the economic bleeding, they're calling on residents to shop and dine amidst the construction. Toronto City Council has also asked Ontario to chip in and pay the businesses that have stuck it out on Eglinton.
If the Ford government says that it's for the people, then the question is which people? Here's a bunch of people who are struggling to make ends meet.
The Ministry of Transportation directed our questions to Metrolinx, which said it will continue providing support for local businesses, but that doesn't include compensation. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Music is about to return to a storied Toronto concert venue. We'll take you inside the new El Macombo a little later in the show.
Hey there, Ryan Snodden here in the Weather Center in for Colette tonight. Another spring-like day across the Great Lakes today. In fact, look at the temperatures, anywhere from 2 to 5 degrees, even 9 and 10 degrees down towards Sarnia and Windsor. And boy, the snow has really taken a cut as a result of these mild temperatures over the last couple of days. How about the snow depth at Toronto Pearson? From 12 centimeters on Sunday to nada this morning, 0. And obviously still some snow in the northern parts of the GTA, and we'll pick up a little bit more throughout the overnight into the Wednesday morning time period as well, with a chance of flurries. Could pick up as much as 2 to 5 centimeters from places like Barrie and down towards Orangeville. But down towards Toronto and certainly into the south, it's just some showers mixed with a few wet flurries. That changes, though, as we roll into the later stages of this week. A nice Thursday shaping up, keeping an eye on Friday, no question about it, with the potential for some accumulating snow all across the lower Great Lakes, including the city of Toronto. Friday morning's commute, even into the afternoon, looks like we could see an impact. The good news, we are clearing and warming as we roll towards the weekend. I've got that full 7-day forecast coming up in a little bit.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
In the U.S., tragedy in Tennessee tonight as a series of tornadoes tore through the state. At least 22 people are dead and hundreds more homeless. Stephen D'Souza shows us the devastation.
There it is! Go! Inside! Now! Lightning over Nashville last night illuminated the dark outline of the tornado. Another twister seen here on this doorbell camera.
We've been through lots of tornado warnings and never thought that this would happen. It's just shock.
In downtown Nashville, one tornado cut a path of destruction 16 kilometers long.
Running down the hallway, the ceiling is just caving in, just debris everywhere, and water is just pouring from the
ceiling and like waterfalls into the hallways.
We took off running. I had enough sense to grab my phone and just ran. It was scary.
The storm hit just after midnight, shredding buildings into piles of matchsticks and leaving cars flipped over. In some areas, the storm hit less than 6 minutes after the first warnings went out.
It sounded like gunshots going off. We heard the windows blowing in, and then we saw the water leaking through the ceiling, and we just grabbed the baby and started to pack everything up as fast as we could.
This was the aftermath at an airport in Nashville. The storm left tens of thousands without power.
This is an absolutely tragic and devastating day for our city and county.
As rescue crews worked to search the debris, schools, government buildings, and transit lines were shut down. Tennessee is one of the states voting in Super Tuesday, and with some polling stations damaged, voters were delayed or forced to go to other locations. Meanwhile, the governor says the strength of the state is already showing.
Folks like this that surround this in an effort to help, that's hope in the midst of hopelessness.
The governor asked for prayers for those left to pick up the pieces of their lives. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
In Tennessee, one of 14 states taking part in what's known as Super Tuesday.
Let's take back this country.
The strongest grassroots campaign.
I think we're going to do very well. Looking forward to it.
2020 is a moment we've been called to in history.
Millions of Americans in 14 states and one territory are heading to the polls to vote in the primaries today. The biggest day in the race so far for Democrats to pick a nominee to take on Donald Trump in November. We'll get you ready for the results to roll in later tonight, right after the break. It is one of the most important days for those in the race to become the Democratic presidential nominee. Super Tuesday, you're looking live at Falls Church, Virginia. Democratic voters are selecting who they think will be most likely to defeat Donald Trump in November. Virginia has the fourth most delegates up for grabs to date. Virginia is one of 14 states and one territory taking part in Super Tuesday. In total, 1,300 delegates will be scooped up. Lindsay Duncombe has more.
Hi, how are you?
Lots of love for Bernie Sanders at his home polling station in Vermont. Victory here, a near certainty. But Sanders' frontrunner status is challenged in the hours leading up to today's vote.
I think you got to be blind not to see it. The corporate establishment and the Democratic establishment are working hard against us.
Here's why he's saying that. Two moderate candidates have just dropped out, throwing their support behind the former vice president who won big in South Carolina over the weekend.
I am focused on helping Joe Biden.
This is your voter pass? This is the single largest voting day of the primary season, even more super than previous Super Tuesdays, with the addition of California, and even more unpredictable thanks to this man, former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg. He entered the race as a moderate when Joe Biden faltered. With the establishment moving to Biden, does Bloomberg have a shot? His strategy? The long haul.
Do you want a contested?
Well, I don't think that I can win any other way.
That possibility looms large, that no one candidate gets a majority of delegates. And the uncertainty about who Democrats believe has the best chance of beating Donald Trump continues into the summer. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
Still ahead, the cellmate of the man accused of murdering Tess Ritchie spills what he says Kaylin Schlater confessed to him. Plus, the revamp of Ontario's mental health services.
All told, there is a clear and pressing case for action.
How the Ford government says it will cut wait times and improve services coming up. Detectives investigating a shooting inside a Chinatown restaurant early this morning. Police were called to the Dundas and Spadina scene around 4 a.m. A man was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police could be seen towing a car from outside the restaurant, but it's not known how it's connected to the investigation. At the trial of the man accused of killing Tess Ritchie, the court heard from a jailhouse informant today who shared a jail cell with the man accused of killing her, Kaylin Schlater. He testified Schlater confessed to strangling her. Mike Wise is following this story for us tonight and joins us now with more. Mike.
No, Dwight, the man's name is actually protected under a publication ban because he's still in jail. We can only call him ES. He says Schlater confided in him when they both shared a cell at the Toronto Detention Centre shortly after Schlater was arrested. Tess Ritchie's mother, you recall, found her daughter's body in a stairwell near church in Wellesley after she went missing after a night out with friends back in November of 2017. Police charged Kaylin Schlater with first-degree murder a few months later. Now, he has pleaded not guilty. But the informant says Schlater told him that he made out with Ritchie in that stairwell and got upset when she refused to go further, and says he tied a scarf around her neck to strangle her. Now, ES also testified Schlater was upset when he learned police had security footage of him and Ritchie and that he'd already spoken to an undercover officer, and he says Schlater even asked for advice in coming up with an alibi. Now, the informant fully admits he has a criminal past, but says he wanted to help Ritchie's family and says he came forward on his own and is not being given any special consideration from the Crown in exchange for this testimony. He'll be cross-examined tomorrow. Dwight?
Thanks, Mike. The Ontario government has announced more money for mental health and addiction services. Among the help that's coming, some free psychological counseling. Lorenda Redekop has more.
And the impact that had on both of us.
Betty Lou Christie has shared her family story before. Her son Pete died back in 2001 from addictions issues, some things she struggled with as well. That's why she was part of the government's consultations on changes to mental health and addiction supports.
I wanted to break the cycle, and I was acutely aware that I was failing. My son deserved a healthy mother. I tried so hard to find effective help for Pete, and I could not.
The government says it's trying to fix that and make the system easier to navigate.
The Mental Health and Addiction Center of Excellence is truly a game changer.
The government is creating a centralized agency to oversee mental health and addiction services, promising to invest $3.8 billion over 10 years. Part of the plan involves starting a new phone line for people to access free cognitive behavioral therapy. The support they receive could be online, on the phone, or in person. It's an attempt to decrease waiting lists for mental health services.
Individuals, especially parents, are becoming desperate for services for their children. And young people, we need to make sure that we expand those services as quickly as we can to dramatically decrease the wait list.
Well, I was very excited to hear that she wanted to dramatically reduce wait times, particularly for children and youth.
The head of Children's Mental Health Ontario says that waiting list has doubled just in the past 2 years to 28,000 kids. Her own daughter became suicidal but was able to get help.
I hear from too many parents that their children didn't survive. And that's, we need to get kids the mental health services they need just as soon as they need it.
Mental health and addiction groups say next they're looking to the upcoming Ontario budget. They want to see money set aside to tackle the waiting lists. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Some dog owners say city staff reviewing off-leash parks in Toronto may be barking up the wrong tree. The city operates about 70 parks that are specifically designed to allow dogs to run free. And last year, the Parks Department began to catalog the conditions in those areas, from fencing and lighting to shade structures and accessibility. Now, while dog owners say they appreciate the city's effort, they say the review doesn't address their real need, more off-leash dog parks.
Improving Toronto's existing dog parks may not be enough. There are entire wards that don't have dog parks at this time. Dog owners along the waterfront are extremely frustrated. There's 2 parks being built right now, Reese Park and York Park. There was an opportunity for an off-leash area in them, and that fell off the table.
Well, it's important to recognize that this is a starting point. We are trying to get a sense of what people are interested in, what they'd like to see from their off-leash areas, and then we're going to go from there.
The city is planning to hold one more public meeting at the end of this month to discuss the conditions of off-leash parks. The results of the review expected by the end of this year.
Time for a look at your weather forecast. You know what, the spring-like warmth over the last couple of days, thought we'd do a little countdown for you, remind you how close it actually is. The equinox just 16 days away now. It'll arrive around 10 minutes to midnight on the 19th, just 4 days, of course, from springing those clocks forward. Blue Jays opener just 23 days away, and we are 40 days to Easter Sunday. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we talk about the snow potential for Friday in the long-range forecast, and we will talk about that. First and foremost, our latest system is clearing out, and we will see some lingering showers this evening, mixed with a few wet flakes in the north. Overnight tonight, again, north and west of the city, some light accumulation possible. Could see a trace to a couple of centimeters. Barrie down through Orangeville. Toronto itself and the city looking pretty quiet, though a few wet flakes not out of the question as temperatures do near the freezing mark. A little breezy tonight. Winds in from the west, sustained 20 to 30. Gusting 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. Now, with those westerly winds, which will be on the go again for tomorrow, some lake effect flurries and a few squalls certainly possible. Again, mainly north of the GTA through the Barrie, across Lake Simcoe region, and also edging into the Orangeville region down towards Kitchener and Guelph. We could see that as well. And again, the possibility of a few wet flakes mixing in down towards Toronto and even down towards the Hamilton region. So although it would be wet flakes, the possibility is there. So a heads up on that. Some sunny breaks intermixed with those lake effect shower mixed with flurry will be tracking through the region for tomorrow. Winds in from the west-northwest, 20 gusting to 40 kilometers per hour throughout the day for tomorrow. Okay, long-range outlook, and we're going to be clearing out for Thursday, looking pretty good, in fact. And then we've got that Friday system. The track and timing of this is going to be key, but as of now, it looks like some accumulating snow beginning overnight Thursday, continuing into Friday morning, and then tapering off throughout the afternoon. But this has the potential to certainly impact the commute on Friday, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. The good news is, after that Friday system, we are warming up nicely, and the weekend at this point looking pretty good. We get one less hour this weekend, but I think 7 degrees and sunshine on Sunday will make it all worth it. That is your forecast to now.
This weather update is brought to you by Fairmont Le Chateau Frontenac, the best location for your next spring break getaway in Quebec City.
After years of silence, the El Mocambo is almost ready to rock again.
El Mocambo really has a place in history, and what I tried to do with the team, and they did a great job because I really didn't do as much as they did, but what I tried to do is take it back to its original form.
We'll take you inside the new and improved legendary venue on Spadina that is reopening in April. After the break. The El Mocambo has been closed for years for a major renovation, but the Toronto landmark is getting closer to reopening. Yelena Adze got a sneak peek today, lucky lady.
I did.
This
My
venue,
hair's still wet from running in the rain.
It's hosted like the Stones and all these great acts. So how are they going to now bring it back to its former glory?
Okay, so before I give you the full reveal, Dwight, let me take you a little bit back in time, okay?
History lesson.
This is what it used to look like back in the day. So it's been closed for at least 6.5 years to try and revamp this venue. As you say, so many huge acts from the Stones, Debbie Harry, and the list goes on and on. It really had this lore. And so what they decided to do is amp up the technology. Dwight, what you're looking at now is really not just a bar, not just a concert venue, but really a recording studio that can live stream all of the concerts. Nothing has been left to chance. Every detail. There's a control room where there's a huge glass window that's right there, and that palm tree that you see there, that huge glass window looks onto that palm tree from the control room, and you look down there and you get to see everything in real time. If you're a VIP, you get to go behind there. That palm tree, that's from the original facade. That's from the outside. They put it inside. The bathrooms are very Instagrammable. Everything has mirrors. Obviously, that's the point, to try and get younger generations in there and tell the story. There are tiki bars. There are all kinds of steps that feature some of the acts that played in the past. And so, as I say, every detail is very ornate and really thought through, but it was really expensive. This is something that cost, according to Michael Weckerly, the owner, $30 million. And then he said, like millionaires speak, give or take $1 million, you know? So, Dwight, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a listen right now to him wax about the history of this place.
I think that the El Mocambo stands for Toronto. You know, it's been since 1948. It has huge history, with not only the bands that play here, but how it started. It started at the edge. So the edge of Toronto was College Street back in the day. And it kind of evolved from there. And what we've tried to do is keep the integrity of the building the same and make it look like it was before, but at the same time, take the technology up 5 notches.
Maybe 10 notches.
Yeah.
It looks so high-end compared to what it used to be.
I know.
Back in the day, this was for young up-and-coming acts to kind of to play up there on a Saturday night. Are they still going to be able to play there then?
That's exactly the question that I asked him. I said, oh, okay, but who can really afford to be here? And they admit this is going to be high end. It's really a lot of corporate kind of gigs will be there. You know, big companies booking it so that they can live stream various events, if you will, from the 3 floors. But I did get this answer, and you might get some sticker shock when he tells you the price of tickets.
When it comes to somebody that can't do it, we're going to make it happen. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, if we're going to have you know, ABC band that's very popular, yeah, we'll charge $500 a ticket or $1,000 a ticket. It might be for charity, it might not. But, you know, this venue, where else can you go in North America to be this close to see a top-notch band?
Now, that does sound expensive, $500 to $1,000, but he says sometimes it'll be $100, and as he says, sometimes it'll be for charity. I know that it's going to look difficult for a lot of smaller bands to play and get in there without this charity aspect of him reducing the cost. But what is really a fascinating point here is that for the city of Toronto, and really even for Canada, there's just nothing like this, Dwight. We're talking about 3 floors, and every single floor, you could have Metallica playing on one floor, and you can't hear at all on the second floor, you know, them playing. It's very soundproof. You also have, they dug down, you know, at 10 feet, they dug upstairs, it's 30 feet, so you're looking at just so much more room than they ever had before. And really the key here is about the live aspect of this. Every single thing will be immediate and live streamed. So they're not just making money off of those tickets, the price of the tickets, but really for the deals that they'll do when they end up getting streaming rights. So this is something that is high end for the city. It's a different El Mocambo, but it is pretty cool.
Yeah, we need more live music venues in this town. We used to have a lot. So.
A lot closed down, so.
Thank you, Yelena.
Talk to you soon.
I'm going to forfeit the monies that we paid and keep my son safe.
Which is how much?
$4,600.
With March break approaching, Canadians are rethinking their travel plans amid a global coronavirus outbreak. That story for you coming up. There are now 30 confirmed cases of the coronavirus across Canada. It comes as Ontario and BC reported new cases today. But the effect of the outbreak, both here and across the world, has been felt beyond just healthcare systems.
We also recognize that there will be impacts on Canadian businesses, on Canadian entrepreneurs, and we will always look for ways to minimize that impact and perhaps give help where help is needed.
The Prime Minister says Canada is coordinating with international partners to reduce the economic harm. The G7 finance ministers, including Bill Morneau, had a conference call today to discuss ways to deal with the effect on markets. The U.S. Federal Reserve has cut its benchmark interest rate by a sizable half point. Industry watchers are closely monitoring to see if the Bank of Canada will follow suit and cut its interest rate tomorrow. Now, the U.S. has just announced it will begin screening all passengers arriving in the U.S. from Italy and South Korea, as Canadians planning to travel abroad are watching and wondering what they should do. Some are wondering if there is a way to salvage their vacations. Others are ready to cancel their trips, even if it means losing all their money. Kayla Hounsel has more.
So was there anything new posted at any time this morning here, Siobhan?
No, more and more parents want to pull out.
Breakfast at the O'Toole house these days is combined with keeping a close eye on a planned school trip to Europe. 16-year-old Ryan is supposed to go next week.
I could possibly be put into quarantine or even get the virus myself. I would hate to do that. And if I didn't notice, I could spread it here and harm people.
Students will travel to Madrid, Paris, and Rome. The Canadian government is advising against all non-essential travel to northern Italy.
I'm going to forfeit the monies that we paid and keep my son safe.
Which is how much?
$4,600.
Canada is also advising against non-essential travel to China and Iran. Other countries have lower-level advisories. The government isn't saying don't go, but is recommending Canadians practice special precautions.
The one that I'm more concerned about is Tokyo, because
Matt Whalen is planning a trip to Japan with his sister. He used to live there while teaching English and promised to bring her back. As type 1 diabetics, they both have compromised immune systems.
We are at slightly higher risk for either contracting a virus like COVID-19 or being more seriously affected. So, we might require hospitalization where somebody else might not.
For the O'Tooles, there's no question.
People are dying. And to send children to Europe at this stage just does not make any sense to me whatsoever.
Today, Nova Scotia's education minister says the provincial government is considering cancelling all school trips. That would allow the O'Tooles to make an insurance claim. They're still hoping their son can go to Europe another time when coronavirus is no longer a concern. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, Westfall, Nova Scotia.
Remember, you can find the very latest on the coronavirus outbreak online anytime at cbcnews.ca. And as we told you earlier, today is Super Tuesday in the United States. Lindsay Duncombe prepared this primer on everything you need to know about one of the biggest days on the U.S. election calendar.
Well, I'm looking forward to Super Tuesday on Tuesday.
Democrats all across the nation will be voting on Super Tuesday.
From California to right here in Texas.
We have an excellent chance to win some of the largest states in this country.
Super Tuesday is a make or break moment. This is where the race gets shaped. I'm Lindsay Duncombe, and I'm the senior Washington editor in the CBC's Washington Bureau. Super Tuesday is a big deal because this is the day when the most states vote all at the same time in the presidential primary. And what that means is there are a lot of delegates at stake. In order to win the nomination here, someone in the Democratic primary has to get the most delegates. So Super Tuesday really gives us a sense of where these candidates are and if one of these candidates has a clear path, is a clear frontrunner on the way to winning the nomination. This Super Tuesday is actually extra super because of the sheer number of states participating. There are 14 states, plus American Samoa and Democrats abroad. This Super Tuesday also includes California, the most populous state. So that means there are a lot of delegates at stake. And also voting, Texas, another state with a really big number of delegates.
So when you look at all of that and you look at the fact that this is really the first time when we're going to see a geographically diverse, racially diverse number of Democrats coming out and saying who they want to be president, this Super Tuesday is a big deal. These candidates are all fighting for more than 1,300 delegates that will be available on Super Tuesday. And if you look at that in the context of the larger Democratic nomination fight, that is more than a third of the total number of delegates available. So do the math. If someone has a really good Super Tuesday, that means they might have a clear path to the nomination or at least emerge as a strong frontrunner. The big thing to watch for on Super Tuesday, of course, is who comes out on top. Right now, Bernie Sanders is the frontrunner, and if he picks up a lot of delegates in a lot of states, he might be unstoppable.
We just won, and we've won big because of you.
But former Vice President Joe Biden had a big weekend cleaning up in South Carolina, and that gives him momentum going into Super Tuesday.
The other thing to watch for is how former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg does in the race, because this has never happened before. Bloomberg is all about Super Tuesday. He was not on the ballot in any of the earlier voting states, and he's been spending hundreds of millions of dollars entering the race at this late stage. He'll find out on Super Tuesday if that makes a difference. And then there's the question of who stumbles. If some of these candidates do poorly on Super Tuesday, the message may be clear. Time to get out of the race. So after Super Tuesday is over, what happens next? We should really have a sense then of whether or not this is going to be a short race with a clear frontrunner with a clear path to the nomination. Or if the delegates are spread among many different candidates, is this going to be a longer race? If this thing gets drawn out, there are more races to watch. In fact, there's more than 2,400 delegates still at stake, and in some pretty big states, including Florida and New York. If the race remains divided, what that could mean is that no single candidate gets a majority of the necessary delegates before the convention in the summer. And that could set the groundwork for what's known as a brokered convention, which means that the person who becomes the Democratic nominee wouldn't be decided until the summer. So what we're watching for on Super Tuesday is the drama that's happening on that day and the drama that could be yet to come.
CBC News has you covered tonight as the results roll in. Stay up to date by visiting cbcnews.ca. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Toronto FC has their home opener this weekend. The team hoping to deliver on the pitch and also at its concession stands. Today, it was time to show off the food on offer this season. The choices include Chicago dogs and grilled cheese sandwiches. You can also grab poutine or a buffalo corn dog topped with buffalo sauce, ranch, and blue cheese. Yum, yum. The team is also hoping more people will discover their app, which allows you to order the food right to your seat. It launched last year by MLSE, and they're hoping some improvements will get more people on board.
I think this year we're going to see a lot of people ordering that way because, as you know, getting through the lines and on the concourse during an intermission can be a little bit crazy. We'd love to alleviate that pain by being able to take it straight to your seat, and that includes beer and drinks as well.
Sounds like a plan. Toronto FC's first home match is this Saturday against New York FC at BMO Field. That is it for our show tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight at 11 after the National. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night, everyone. And for news anytime, remember, just head to cbc.ca/Toronto or just download the CBC News app. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.